So let's talk about the roadmap. Okay. Now what I do is I break the roadmap down at least into two distinct areas. One is inventing. This is where you get your idea to the prototype stage. And then the product development. This is where, okay, the product is marketable. Now I'm going to take it from the planning stage to the launch stage. Okay. Now if you look at my handout, that is the roadmap. Okay. This is the product idea to product success roadmap. And if you look at the top half, let's go through this flow chart here. So initially, let's say you have your idea. Okay. First thing you want to do is protect it. And I'm not talking about patents at this point. Okay. Inventor's notebook. How many people use an inventor's notebook? Okay, good. And again, the key in the United States is that it's the first who comes up with the idea. It's not the first to file. Most of the countries in the world, it's the first who actually files a patent. The United States is still the first who comes up with the idea. So you have to document when you actually came up with the idea. And an inventor's notebook is a legitimate way to do that. Okay? They used to have a document disclosure program that was eliminated in February 2007. Okay? Provisional patents are possible. Some people have filed them pretty simply, but again, they could be costly. Now, if you have 10 ideas, what are you going to do? You're going to file a patent on each one of them? No. What you want to do is now go through this market research and evaluation phase as quickly as possible, but thoroughly. So the self-evaluation is where you take a look at, all right, are there any benefits to my product? Okay? Any competitors out there? Now, I've had some ideas myself, and I'll go out and I'll do a Google search, and all of a sudden I'll say 20 of them out there. I go, oh, forget it. You know, my idea is not going to fly. And if there are competitors, you want to say, all right, what are potential competitive advantages that I have over the competition with this product, or what could be built into it? And then doing a little profit analysis, and we'll talk more about that. Then you say, all right, if it's marketable, then we'll go to the next stage. If it's not marketable, then we'll go back, and maybe there's something else we can do with the self-evaluation. The next area is called concept evaluation. And this is what I help inventors do where, let's say, if your prototype is very expensive, maybe it's an electronic device, or you have to create an elaborate prototype, you can actually create, it's really like a survey, it's a concept survey, where you get a basic idea of what the problem is and your solution to that problem, and then you ask a few questions. And it's very effective. Essentially, on one piece of paper, for free, you can essentially create this, hand it out to a number of people, and they can give you some feedback on your idea right away. Okay? And they'll say, oh, well, it should have this, it should have that, or no, I don't think it's really going to fly. And you do this with your potential target market for your particular product type. Okay? Now, if that looks good, then you move on to the prototype evaluation. Now is where you start building your prototype and getting feedback on that. And that's another problem is, all right, people get the idea of, all right, I just have to make a prototype. Now, why do I make a prototype? Well, there's a number of reasons you make a prototype. You know, one is, obviously, does it work? You want to know if it works. Maybe I have to appeal to certain investors. If you have people investing in you, they want to know this thing works. Okay? You want to maybe get, if you're going to go down the licensing path, you're going to have to build some kind of prototype. Okay? But then it's like, what do I do? You want to get some feedback to make sure that this is what the people want. I don't want to go from prototype directly to production. Okay? A lot of times, the prototype, there's a number of iterations you have to go through. Now, I remember seeing, you remember the Palm Pilot? All right? The first one that I had seen was a block of wood. It was actually a block of wood, and he painted on it what the screen would look like. Okay? This was to see if, are people excited about this? So, I mean, you can imagine if you went to all the expense of, all the electronics and the plastics and metals and all that, that would have been very costly. Okay? But he wanted to get an idea, does this make sense? Okay? Now, if it is marketable at the end, then we talk about, all right, funding. How much is it going to take to actually fund this project? Okay? Then I can talk about getting a patent. Okay? Patents, $5,000, $10,000, some people $15,000. Okay? So, again, I want to think about funding. Do I need to get outside investors involved? Okay, do I need to write a business plan? That's a possibility. Then you say, okay, maybe do I self-market or license this? Okay. How many people are interested in licensing or thinking about licensing? Okay. And how about self-marketing? Okay, good. So if you are going to self-market, then you want to go down the path of, all right, there's a planning phase, there's a development phase, and then there's the actual launch phase. Okay. Now, on the licensing side, what I recommend to people is create a licensing proposal. And there's a disconnect between inventors and companies. And typically, inventors, they call these companies, hey, I got this invention, and they never return a call, they never return their emails, they hang up on them, and it's just, they go from company to company, and they get shut down. The main reason is because you're not presenting your invention from a business perspective. These companies want to make money. They don't care really what your product is in general. Okay? They are interested to know that, hey, this is something they could manufacture. It fits the same distribution channels that they are currently serving. But the bottom line is they have to make a certain amount of money. I was talking to a licensing manager the other day from Procter & Gamble, and he says a product has to make $100 million to be viable. Because right away, they're going to spend $30 million on marketing. So I'm not saying all your inventions have to go to Procter & Gamble and all that, but in general, again, they're thinking in terms of what's the payback. Okay? So again, what I do is I create a licensing proposal, which is like a little mini business plan. And again, it puts the product in a perspective of what's the benefits, who are the competitors, what's the advantages, okay? What's the market size, what's the profit potential. Okay? Then you search for the companies. Then you introduce yourself. You can send a cover letter, see if they'll sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. Some companies will not do that. They'll say, all right, you need to have a patent before we even talk to you. And even when we do talk to you, you have to sign our agreements. Okay? Then they'll do an evaluation, and then you negotiate a deal. And some of these, the bigger companies, take a long time. Okay? So smaller companies, I can sit down with the company president. We can talk about the big companies. It can take months and months and months. Okay.